Mr. President, distinguished members of the Rotary Club of Bombay Central, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to be amongst you all for the simple reason that I associate a Rotary with meditation. Many years back, when I addressed the first Rotary Club, I was told that your mission statement was to serve all. And if that understanding of mine is correct, then the subject of my talk isn't very far from that. I'm sure the founding figures, fathers of Rotary movement, must have been visionaries, must have been very selfless people, must have realized that it is no use to be in the assembly of haves and not to be aware of the position of the have-nots. Man has been created in the mold of success, and there can't be any other possibility. If this is understood, then life will unfold before us in a magnificent manner, in a myriad ways, depending on our personal endowments. Jesus Christ once said, "Embrace poverty." Now, if one were to literally think about these words, it would be a very desperate situation. But what Jesus meant was to live in a thrifty manner, so that whatever comes your way can be used for larger good. I've been associated with trade, commerce and industry all my life. I've been associated with the rich and the famous. I have seen abject poverty with my eyes around me. I have seen appalling wealth being abused. I have seen the state of the human being in all these conditions, and the bottom line is, I saw no difference. I saw that each one who was empowered in one particular way was as fragile as anybody else. Now when you start thinking on these lines, then we realize the meaning of life better. Coming back to the subject of meditation, to put it very simply, none of us would be surviving as a human being if we were not meditative. And if that is so, isn't it paradoxical that we have to learn meditation when we are doing it day in and day out? Such is the irony of life. Because what is proximal to us is taken for granted. And so, we do not reflect on it, and then the mosaic of its understanding doesn't develop. All of us know when somebody passes away, each one of us says that the soul has left. Now, to keep the physical frame intact, all of us labor day in and day out in a million different ways. Each one wants to look handsome and beautiful. Why not? So, we have the entire menu card and recipe of carbohydrates, minerals, vitamins, what have you, facials, all kinds of ointments, powders, etc., etc. All kinds of possibilities are rolled out. But have you ever paused for a while and thought as to what is the nourishment for the soul, the real engine of your life, which takes you up and down, and when it leaves you, you are dead? Well, the Creator was no fool. He knew how selfish we would roll out in the journey of life, and so He thought it best to keep the provision of food for the soul directly in His hands. And the food for the soul to thrive and live as a real entity is nothing but meditation. And so, since all of us are alive here, you got to accept this postulate, which is absolute fact and truth, that we are indeed all doing meditation, irrespective of our attitude and thoughts towards this phenomenon. So I have virtually narrowed down and exposed meditation to you by telling you that the meditation activity which functions in each one of us is not functioning from the digestive system, is not functioning from the respiratory system, is not necessarily functioning from any other system, but it is located and insulated within the soul. The soul has a direct connectivity with the Lord, the Maker. Call him by whatever name you like. In fact, this bundle of energy, which gives us our persona, our personality, our ability to do whatever we wish to do on this universe, is a fragment of that celestial energy which is all-knowing, all-pervasive, and its capacity can never be postulated by any human being. In other words, the mega sphere, which is from where all life forces emanate, the cosmos, the macro level and the micro level are connected by this energy process known as meditation. At the micro level, the soul exists and is embodied in a human body, and depending on its possibilities, it draws from the macro level. So God is no physical phenomenon. God is not slave to any particular religion. God does not exist in most of the mythological manner in which we want to believe him or her. God is nothing but an interaction of matter and energy, and as very correctly propounded in our motherland, it is nothing but Shakti. So, the cosmos is a huge area, much bigger than all the stars and planets put together in its expanse, and it's a constant churning energy which keeps on refining itself in order to beat the possibilities of human endeavor by keeping itself ahead of us, so that it's able to provide us with the necessary inputs to continue the race of life, or Srishti as we would like to call in India. So in its fundamentals, meditation is no physical energy, is no energy that can be manipulated or manufactured by any human endeavor. Meditation is an activity of direct connectivity with the source from which we emanated. So you can imagine the responsibility that is associated with this activity. I wonder how many of us have ever had the privilege to go inside the precincts of a nuclear reactor. Hardly anyone, except those who are intimately concerned with that activity. And if I were to tell you the truth, it is also similar when it comes to the realm of meditation. But like most activities on earth, at a mass level, there are a lot of fallacies about meditation, there are a lot of primitive understanding about meditation, and that activity permeates the earth in a large measure and is practiced by most human beings, albeit I would still consider it as a positive activity, because it is better to be occupied with something which has a possibility of a higher nature than to fritter away time in useless pursuits. Meditation, therefore, is an activity which cannot be considered as a possibility on a mass level. It shall only come to the microscopic few on earth who have a goal beyond themselves to pursue with the vigor and vitality of a missionary. This is the basic fundamentals of meditation, and therefore it is not easy to practice meditation. What happens to the human being when the Lord smiles on him? And when the Lord smiles, He is able to transmit the entire package of dhyan into that person. So, in its fundamentals, dhyan is neither complicated nor difficult to practice, since, as I mentioned earlier, we all see it happening inside us. When meditation strikes, what happens to you? When meditation happens to you, it is like the reconstruction that is going on in Bombay. All the emotions of a beautiful villa are gone in a second. Raised to the ground. So in other words, if you are prepared for your personality to be totally demolished, the one which was based on ego, the one which was based on all the senses, the one which was totally a journey for me, myself and I, then get into the subject called meditation. And depending on your possibility, you shall move ahead. So when you start meditating, you are lost for yourself, totally. But you would then be of service to mankind. And that is why it is an activity which is controlled by the Lord. There is no need for any externalization or symbols in order to practice meditation. And let me tell you, in my journey of over 3.5 decades, I have seen among successful people, medical practitioners, lawyers, businessmen, scientists, a lot of yogis, and such wonderful human beings that they refuse to acknowledge that they are divine. Such is the height of their divinity. And these are the people, ladies and gentlemen, who make the world peaceful, whose every breath goes in making our tomorrow a better tomorrow. It is these human beings that we should recognize. We should not run after uniforms. We have a very superficial approach to things. We should get out of that. We should think deeply when it comes to matters which are spiritual. Because this is no matter of joke, or this is no matter of casual consideration. So if you are meditative, and if you are lucky, you would be initiated by the Lord at the right time. And when that happens inside you, all kinds of things start happening inside you. The first thing that meditation does is to magnetize your soul to a higher level. So when the inner being starts getting magnetized by this celestial energy, he or she will start attracting people. They would be attracting people for what purpose? Not for filling their coffers. But automatically people with problems will start approaching these very people, and those problems would get mitigated in a miraculous manner, in the most unconventional manner. These are some of the forays of meditation. A person who is meditative is connected. He or she will never get tired. He or she will be talking on any subject on earth without repetition. He or she would be successful in any endeavor of their choice. In other words, a person who is meditative, waste and loss departs from your life. One. Thereafter what happens? You transcend the astral layers. All of us are controlled by stars and luck to a great extent. We got to believe it. But when you start becoming meditative, you produce your own luck. This is the difference. So in other words, Gandhiji gave us political freedom. How many of us want to liberate ourselves personally? If these kind of thoughts cross your mind, if you wish to join the galaxy of those unknown soldiers of India who have contributed to augmenting the light of this world, then get involved with meditation. Just like a farmer sows in his field various kinds of crops and vegetables, the Lord, when He conceived Srishti or life on earth, planted different kinds of people in different places. Are you aware? We all chanted the national anthem. I wonder how many of you have tried to ponder over those words. We belong to the area of light, that light which God has planted on Mother Earth, that lighted area. Just like in a dark room, when you light a small little candle, the whole room lights up. Similarly, divinity, when it casted life on earth, first lit the lamp on Bharat Bhumi, and it is to that sacred land we belong. Deep down the belly of our motherland is an eternal flame which shall never get extinguished. If you are able to connect with it, all things divine would happen, irrespective of your faith, irrespective of your capacity of knowledge, irrespective of your place in society, irrespective of any kind of lacunae inside you. Such is the possibility of meditation. So you belong to an earth which is absolutely soaked with divinity. You have to understand that you carry on your shoulders a very great responsibility. We are all gurus by the choice and the will of the Lord. Whether you recognize it or you laugh over it is your personal choice. Because in the realm of divinity, in the realm of absolute power, there is no compulsion. God is the biggest democrat. Please remember this always. Against your will, a superpower will not exert itself. If you ally with a superpower, that power would deliver some possibilities out of you. So there is no question of any compulsion. It is only man who likes to subjugate another human being. It is only man at the micro level who tries to subjugate and show power. At the macro level, there is total liberty and there is total democratization. So we carry a tremendous responsibility in this country. We are indeed, each one of us assembled in this country, are gurus. We are supposed to give knowledge and information. We are supposed to remove darkness out of this earth. Until and unless we realize this responsibility, peace will not pervade the universe on a continuous basis. This is a challenge to Bharatvasis. Whether we are ready to accept this responsibility or we are going to chase money as the only succor is a personal choice. So even before the so-called West, which entices you, even before the so-called developed economies of the world, which baffles you and which you like to emulate, we knew the distance between the earth and the sun. This is what, ladies and gentlemen, you should realize, that you are indeed belonging to the royal family of the Lord. So do not masquerade like the lesser ones. So this is the possibility in this country. Unlike in the West, the geomagnetism of this earth portion, which is known as Bharat, is throbbing with meditative energy. So it is very easy to connect with the Lord and the Maker, who was fascinated after He created the human being. So we belong to the Lord's most powerful creation as a human being, and there is no need to seek any external miracles. We are indeed a walking, talking miracle of the Lord, and this possibility, since it is so much a part of us, we are very alien to that. This is a subject on which I can speak endlessly. Suffice to say that I got involved in it in a miraculous manner, and many years back I was told that I would write a book. So I naturally thought I was a shipping person, that I would write a fascinating book on shipping, or maybe I thought I was imaginative, I would fib out a novel. Little did I realize that the Lord was going to put me on the journey which was entirely beyond my comprehension then. In 1989, in the Mahakumbh at Allahabad, I was baptized by a very senior light worker, as I would like to put. He was in the 90s, I had never known him. Just after my interaction with him, my edifice crumbled, as I mentioned to you a little earlier, and a new one was raised by him overnight. The result of that is the inner light cosmic meditation. And with due humility, in the last paragraph, I have said that I am not the author of this book, but for practical purposes, I would not have had the right to put my name on it. For the simple reason, this book was born in 28 sessions between 1 and 3 a.m. in the night when I was made to do my dhyan, and in dhyan avastha, these words flowed out of my mind, mouth into a tape recorder. What was captured in 14 CDs was later transcribed, and that is the unedited contents of this book. This book has journeyed now 4 years. It has been a bestseller in the non-fiction category without any publicity, and even today I am personally fascinated by the contents of this book for the simple reason I still don't associate myself with this genius work. With these words, I leave you with the thoughts that I have mentioned, and I would be most delighted to take up any questions that you may like to pose.
Thank you. Anyone? Any comments, questions? Yes, Pansi.
You said that you are always initiative and you don't have to do the meditation as such sitting in one place. You are in the what frame of meditation means? What did you mean by that?
No, what I said was that meditation happens in us at the level of the soul. Correct? Now all that we need to do is to realize that by getting initiated into dhyan, so that what is happening inside pervades your physical brain and gives you the joy of actually doing meditation. So whether you do meditation or you don't do meditation, whether you deny in a cocktail party that this is all crap, it doesn't matter. It is happening to you whether you like it or not. So the question of learning meditation in the classical sense does not arise. It does happen inside you. So you got to give yourself a little pause, and it will generate itself. You will get the necessary help. Like for example, my coming today was not known to me till yesterday morning. How did this happen? Well, if you want to talk about it in a corporate way, it was to happen. But I don't look at it that way, and that is why I do meditation. So the grammar of life has to change. You cannot comprehend meditation with the logic of life. Life is not logical. If life was logical, all PhDs should be on the top and all metric fails should be at the bottom. We know it's the other way around.
That's what you said. So you do meditation. So how do you do meditation?
That's what I explained to you, that so far as I am concerned, it's a different matter. But if you are asking as to how meditation has to be done, I would only say that one has to sit calmly in a place. If you are already familiar with the technique, then my request is do not change your technique. This is no shopping spree. So if you know something, practice it vigorously. Try to reorient your life knowing that you are on a higher trajectory, and it shall happen at the right time.
Thank you.
Talks, I get a feeling that meditation is coming from the supernatural power. All cannot meditate. You have to be lucky to meditate.
No, not lucky.
You have to be gifted.
You have to be interested in serving the lesser privileged people, or you have to have a noble goal. Then it will come to you.
Then it will.
The more controls, the less selfish you are, the greater the chances of your becoming meditative. Why should you tell me, as a businessman, if somebody were to come and ask you ₹1,00,000, would you part with it? No. So how do you expect the Lord to fritter away His precious energy to someone who is undeserving? To carry out and become the richest man and the most famous man on earth, your endowment of the brain is sufficient. You don't need meditation for that. To carry out any activity on earth for your own aggrandizement, you don't need meditation. So you will not get that divine energy to fritter it away, to butter your bread on both sides. But if you have a noble cause to espouse, yes, it will come to you.
What is this university formed by the Maharishi yogi who just passed
No,
away.
the-
Is that to inculcate or to teach you how to meditate or to win world peace?
See, there are many, many people. See, this is no one man's proprietary firm. God belongs to all because we indeed are His children. So each child tries to sing his psalm in a particular way. And I would think any kind of effort which is directed towards divinity is good.
Thank you, sir.
I will leave this book with your president for the club, and those who are interested can borrow it. I cannot, I have to tell you that this has gone out of print, and I will be printing the second edition very soon. Otherwise, I would have been happy to probably give you all more copies. So I shall leave one copy with your president.
Please feel free to walk. Thank you very much. Now request.